Arcadian Vanguard presents The Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with further developments surrounding Vince McMahon's return to power in WWE. WWE's board of directors voted unanimously yesterday to elect McMahon as executive chairman of the board. The vote came 5 days after McMahon elected himself to the board of directors, along with former WWE presidents Michelle Wilson and George Barrios, removing 3 former board members and leading to the resignation of 2 more. Shortly before the announcement, Stephanie McMahon announced her resignation from the positions of chairwoman of the board and co-CEO of WWE, which she has held since her father initially resigned from the company last July amidst allegations of sexual misconduct and misappropriation of funds. Nick Khan will remain with the company as the sole CEO. Wrote Stephanie in her official statement, quote, "Our founder Vince McMahon has returned as executive chair and is leading an exciting process regarding strategic alternatives. And with Nick's leadership and Paul Triple H Levesque as chief content officer, I am confident WWE is the perfect place to continue to provide unparalleled creative content and drive maximum value for shareholders." End quote. Hours after the official announcements, Stephen Mulhausen of DAZN reported that Vince McMahon had sold World Wrestling Entertainment Incorporated to the Public Investment Fund of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, with WWE going back to being a privately held business after more than 23 years as a publicly traded company. Mulhausen also indicated that McMahon was expected by many to return as the head of creative under the new ownership. Mulhausen's sources were not named, and as of this morning's recording, the story had not been confirmed by any other news outlets. In more information on the legal situation around McMahon's return, the law firm of Scott & Scott Attorneys at Law plan to file a complaint against McMahon and potentially other WWE management for breach of fiduciary duties to the company and its shareholders in response to recent board of directors shakeups that saw the former chairman elect himself onto the board despite still being under investigation. The new filing against McMahon and other directors and officers would be part of an ongoing class action lawsuit already being brought by multiple firms set in motion last June in the wake of the allegations of misconduct against McMahon and the former head of talent relations John Laurinaitis, which were made public last June. Former NXT Women's Champion Mandy Rose, aka Mandy Sacamano, appeared yesterday morning on the Tamron Hall show to address her dismissal from WWE last month.
Obviously a gut punch, it was definitely, I was so disappointed. But at the end of the day, my purpose was what was gone, and I felt that's where I kind of felt lost and I felt confused because of all the hard work that I put into. And driving home from that, a lot of things were going through my mind. You always think there's a lot of unanswered questions and all that, but at the end of the day, like I said, I love what I've done in the WWE, and I love that the platform, what it presented me with. So I am forever grateful for them.
During the interview, Sacamano confirmed that she was released for posting risque content, including semi-nude photos, to her premium account on the content-sharing site Fantime. She also stated that she was shocked when she was told she would be losing the NXT Women's title to Roxanne Perez at the December 13th NXT taping, which was not the original plan, and did not know at the time she was going to be released the next day. Sacamano indicated that she received one previous warning to remove Fantime content that WWE found to be objectionable, which she did. She also confirmed that she made $1 million from Fantime in just 2.5 weeks after being let go by WWE. WWE was approached by the Tamron Hall show but refused to comment. Sacamano's 90-day non-compete clause with WWE expires March 14th. In ratings news, this week's episode of Monday Night Raw drew the highest rating for the show in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic in 3 months, with a .50 rating equating to 652,000 viewers, according to WrestleNomics. That figure is up almost 22% from last week's .41 key demo rating. Overall viewership for the show, which aired live on the USA Network, was 1.693 million, up 5.5% from last week's 1.605 million. The live New Year's Evil episode of NXT was broadcast last night on the USA Network. NXT champion Braun Breaker retained his title on the show when challenger Grayson Waller was counted out of the ring after falling to the outside due to the broken ring ropes.
Nasty spill by Waller. as the challenger was looking to walk the ropes again in this matchup. But the referee's starting to count. NXT Championship's on the line. Referee's still counting. Waller just realizing it. Referee's at 9. Waller.
Your winner via countout, and still the NXT champion, Braun Breaker.
Later in the show, Shawn Michaels announced that the two would have a rematch inside of a steel cage at NXT Vengeance Day on February 4th. In the main event, Gigi Dolan and Jayce Jane of Toxic Attraction were declared the co-winners of a 20-woman number one contender battle royal when they simultaneously eliminated each other. It was announced that both Dolan and Jane would challenge Roxanne Perez in a triple threat match for the NXT Women's title at NXT Vengeance Day. In the opening match, Dominic Dijak pinned Tony D'Angelo to earn a future shot at Wes Lee's NXT North American Championship. The show also featured the return of Tiffany Stratton, who has been recovering from a head injury.
How badly did you guys miss me? I know you all totally probably missed me so much, it's like not even funny. Every single woman in that locker room is sweating like a disgusting pig because NXT's biggest superstar is back.
Stratton has not had a match since the August 23rd edition of NXT. In other results, Gallus won a tag team gauntlet match, last eliminating Pretty Deadly. Jinder Mahal pinned Julius Creed, and Charlie Dempsey beat Hank Walker via submission. In more WWE news, Becky Lynch was not present for last Monday night's Raw, but instead was on set in Memphis filming another appearance for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's NBC sitcom Young Rock, according to Lynch's social media. Lynch portrays Cyndi Lauper on the show, which takes place partly in the mid-1980s when Johnson was a child and his father, Rocky Johnson, wrestled for the WWF. As he's done in the past, The Rock responded to Lynch's tweet on Monday praising her work on the show. Lynch is set to return as Lauper for Season 3 of Young Rock, scheduled to complete filming next month. Former New Japan Wrestling performer Carl Fredericks is signed with WWE, according to a report yesterday from PW Insider. Fredericks finished up with New Japan last August and is scheduled to debut with NXT. The 8-year veteran reported earlier this week to the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. With some collectibles news, here's the Wrestling News' Lou Kipilman.
A new set of Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson figures has been canceled by toy company Super 7. According to a Twitter statement from the company, shared yesterday by the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. The figures were to be part of the Ultimates line of New Japan Pro Wrestling figures produced by Super 7. Said Super 7 in their statement, quote, "We reviewed the production requirements and minimums with our factory. It's been decided that production of these figures will not be able to move forward." End quote. In addition to a lack of pre-orders, it's unknown if Gallows and Anderson's jump to WWE while the action figures were still in production had anything to do with the decision. For the Wrestling News, I'm Lou Kipilman.
And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the Wrestling News 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.